So I think it's safe to say we all understand the threat that Morena, Prudo, and the Heil-Ly family pose not just to the Black Whale, the Phantom Troupe, and to the Succession War, but to the absolute world itself. There is a reason why Kurapika, who isn't even that in detail to the Kakin Empire's politics, knows that a disruption of the Heil-Ly, Kara, and Shiyu families could potentially throw the entire power balance of the Succession War off. Even though the top floors aren't aware of Morena's contagion and they aren't aware of the steps that she is taking to bring destruction to the entire world, one thing that we are aware of, at least in this present moment, is that it's not gonna be Prince Benjamin pulling the strings that brings about a break in the balance of the three Mafia families, because that is legitimately already going on the Black Whale. They don't need anyone to do that already, as it's the Phantom Troupe that are specifically doing the work of the Kara and Shiyu Mafia families by participating in the entire whole coup d'etat of the status quo, you could call it, and eliminating the Heil-Ly family for them. The Shiyu family and the Kara family describe that subtle exchange of having someone else take care of the damage for them is very interesting to me. Now, the reason that the Kara and Shiyu families are specifically relying on the Phantom Troupe to do their dirty work for them is because they want to appear like they're playing into the rules of everything going on. The Phantom Troupe is a group of criminals that isn't beholden to any of the Kakin Empire's ideals or what's going on. They already know that their existence as a whole is probably not for the best of deeds. Obviously, we know the Phantom Troupe is there to steal all of the Kakin Empire's treasure, as well as kill Hisoka as quickly as they possibly can. It is why we see that even though Heinrich of the Shiyu family is very more than willing to ally himself with Nobunaga, with Phaeton, with Finks, and pretend that he's helping them to the best of their ability to not only find Hisoka, but, you know, aid them in their fight against the Heil-Ly. It's why we know that as soon as Heinrich found Hisoka, he said, hey, here's a pass to tier 1. Please just hold off on fighting with the Phantom Troupe until they fight the Heil-Ly for them. Until they fight the Heil-Ly for us. They are fully interacting and trying to manipulate the Phantom Troupe to the best of their ability. They just recently got into a fight with the Heil-Ly. Not too long ago, Nobunaga and Heinrich did. So Nobunaga and Heinrich had found the Heil-Ly's headquarters after much detective work, which was actually pretty impressive on their behalf, and it shows how competent they are when they actually work as a group. When Nobunaga and Heinrich invaded, they were specifically stopped by two members of Morena's contagion that shows just how dangerous contagion actually can be when released out into the world. The two members were Yokotani, who was level 27 in Morena's contagion and developed his own Nen ability, which you get after level 20, called a Battle of Wits LSDF, which conjures guards generated from how serious the opponent's crimes are, which I believe he hit them with physical homicide and trespassing, and that gave them level 4 out of 7 guards, which was enough to, for some reason, carry and get both Nobunaga, who we haven't even seen his Nen ability yet, so I'm honestly very interested to see what Togashi does with him in the short little battle of the Mafia families, and Heinrich, who has a pretty decent Nen ability of his own. And the reason why Yokotani was able to do this is because he was accompanied by one more of Morena's contagion prodigies, which was Terabellum, who was a level 21, which means he just recently gained a Nen ability called Damage Sweet Home, which is actually pretty OP, and basically it allows Terabellum to transfer the damage of anything he's holding with his right hand to whatever he's holding with his left hand. So by holding Yokotani's shoulder with his right hand, he's basically able to stop Yokotani from getting stabbed in the forehead by Nobunaga's sword tip and transfer that to either an object or human or whatever else the left hand is touching. The only downside of Damage Sweet Home is that if you aren't touching anything with your left hand, you're gonna get cooked because you're gonna take all of that damage. that will save the person you're touching, but if it's lethal damage, at least it only goes to his left hand, right? So by pushing Nobunaga out, they've actually resolved him to take an entirely different approach to take down the Heil-Ly family entirely. As much as Phaeton and Finks think they're going to be able to just go in and destroy them and defeat them, as Phaeton so eloquently says, pointless, we crush them regardless, they're going to need a couple more things to go all out. Now, they do have a little bit of an advantage specifically because Heinrich, using his Nen ability, was able to get a transmitter into the perfect place so they could get some surveillance. But Nobunaga wants to, instead of going all the way back to the headquarters, he wants to go back down to tier 4 and talk with the Shiyu and Kara families to find something out. And as he says, he hopes he's wrong, but if his hunch is correct, he's gonna beat the shit out of Finks and Phaeton because, again, reminding you, they are the reason that they're caught up in all of this nonsense anyway. Now, again, the Heil-Ly family is mostly acting on their own here. They are not really worried whatsoever about what's going on in the succession war. They're not really worried about what's going on with Shiyu or Kara. They have already really just taken everything in regards to this Black Whale voyage out of their minds. I mean, they've shut themselves off from Sorodnik, even though, again, he's not really caring about them whatsoever anymore either. Something is going to happen, whether it is the Heil-Ly family beginning to just mass slaughter civilians as much as they possibly can in order to power up their family members as much as possible, which we already kind of see them beginning to do, because if Heinrich didn't step in the one time and fight them with all of his pigeons, that probably would have been a pretty bad scene out in public. Or the other option being the Phantom Troupe is successfully manipulated into entering an all-out battle with Morena and her family, while the Shiyu and Kara just remain in the background and then just wipe up the mess of whatever is left out. It's gonna cause an issue for the people on the higher tiers, whether they like it or not. And again, if we look at this from Kurapika's outlook, this is the perfect reason to give Benjamin every possible justification to enact martial law and take full control of the succession war. And that's just completely an unrelated event that could throw the entire power structure, whatever hierarchy has been building in the higher tiers, off in no time at all. Like, we have to understand that Morena is pure chaos incarnate. And with Sorodnik just not caring at all whatever the hell she's doing and just developing his own Nen prowess, it's easy to see how her, Dogman, and the entire Contagion swarm is just going to create so many issues for the Black Whale. Do I think Hisoka will be a Kurapika ally, and I hope those two team up again? As much as I would love to see Hisoka and Kurapika team up again, it's really unclear what Hisoka wants to gain out of being on this trip. Of course, Hisoka's always looking for a good fight and is looking for the next best thing. We know Hisoka has basically employed Illumi to assassinate them on this trip. So Hisoka is not only looking to fight Illumi to the best of his ability, who Hisoka rated a 9.5, we also already know that literally everyone in this panel is ready and willing to murder Hisoka on sight. And there are multiple different theories that revolve around Hisoka and what he could potentially play in this crazy game of, again, the three Mafia families taking advantage of Nobunaga, Finks, and Phaeton, and potentially them finding Franklin, who is just waiting in the cafeteria right now and waiting for Hisoka to come find him and fight him. Who knows what could happen back then? You have Krollo, Bonilov, and Shizuku searching for Hisoka, and you also have that big conspiracy that is theorized and has been theorized for years, which is that Bonilov, who admits that he does have an ability that allows him to disguise himself as someone else. You also have Krollo, who we believe should still have convert hands, which will allow him to switch appearances with someone else. So you have Krollo and Bonilov that can potentially pretend to either be Hisoka. That may be the Hisoka that we've seen on the boat so far that was offered a pass directly to tier 1, which will allow Krollo right into the bounty of the Kakin Empire. But I'm not really sure how likely that will be, because again, you have the whole problem with if Kurapika knows that the Phantom Troupe is on board, not only will that give him another enemy that he'll be facing and will be looking out for, because despite the fact that Kurapika is already at odds with Sorodnik and looking for the scarlet eyes that he has, I'm sure Kurapika is not going to be happy to find out Chrollo has gotten his Nen back. So Hisoka could help Kurapika, sure. Hisoka could just be looking for a good fight and wanting to eliminate all of the Phantom Troupe in one singular place, which is where they all are right now. Hisoka can fight Illumi. He can fight all of the different Phantom Troupe members, maybe one by one, and slowly pick them off and single them out while they're all separated on this train, on this boat. Or Hisoka could come in the middle of the big fight between Heil-Ly and Phantom Troupe and completely throw everything out of whack. But truly, at the end of the day, I'm mostly worried about whatever role Morena Prudo will play in the events to come. The fact that she is truly a wild card that has no allegiance to any prince, the Kakin Empire, or anything whatsoever, it makes me scared to see how far Contagion can go. I know everyone is hyped to see what Dogman does. I'm personally hyped to see if she has developed any different kinds of Nen abilities through Contagion, because being able to give all of these different people Nen abilities and have them have their own complicated conditions and then set them up to become patient zeros of their own, the amount of restrictions and conditions and contracts Morena may have had to employ to develop this Hatsu, it doesn't surprise me that she would be a major threat herself, or maybe she's getting something out of this besides just pure chaos. Although again, maybe it is just to spread pure chaos and she doesn't need to get anything out of it. But I wholeheartedly believe she has enough power to be a major villain in the whole entire boat ride to come, because we've already talked a lot about how she could affect the succession war and the things to come. We've already seen how the Heil-Ly family and the Contagion members that she's created can already pose a threat to major Nen users like the Phantom Troupe. So it makes me wonder, who is a bigger threat and who is a more likely main villain for this arc? Sorodnik or Morena? Does seem like from the editor's note that we will be shifting to the Phantom Troupe's perspective again, whether that be through Nobunaga, Phaeton, and Sphinx, or we actually cut to Chrollo, Bonalov, and Shizuku. I'm sorry for all the people that are going to be mad at me for not being able to pronounce Bonalov, but my mouth just doesn't work that way. But this entire aspect of the underlayer of the succession war genuinely can do nothing but create an unexpected effect that, as someone already mentioned, Contagion does grant someone multiple levels for killing a prince. So if the Heil-Ly family is responsible for killing a prince, as Kurapika successfully kind of theorizes, whether it be Benjamin manipulating the break of the balance between the Mafia, or just Morena herself interfering in the upper tiers, a Heil-Ly family member with Contagion kills a prince, they go up a significant number of levels. So it's safe to say that with that kind of setup, this war between the Phantom Troupe, the Heil-Ly family, and the other two Mafia families that are trying to remain neutral or pretend to remain neutral, I'm not sure how it's going to interfere with the upper layers, but I'm excited to see how it happens. And again, with Hisoka being on tier 1 already, with the Shiyu being able to send him right up there, whether that's Hisoka, Chrollo, or whoever it is, maybe that is the perfect ticket they need as a bridge from the lower tiers to tier 1, just by Hisoka causing trouble up there. I mean, imagine Hisoka getting involved in the succession war. By golly.